Shout, a Buffalo football podcast, hosted by Matt Parrino and Ryan Talbot.
No place else you'd rather be than right here, right now. When it's too tough for them, it's just right. The Bills make me wanna.
What is up, everyone? Thursday night, we got ourselves a football game this Sunday. The Las Vegas Raiders will host your Buffalo Bills, 3-0 Bills versus 2-1 Raiders. We're going to break that game down a little bit tonight. I am Matt Parrino. He is my co-host, Ryan Talbot. This is the Shout Buffalo Bills football podcast. And we were live last night for a little over an hour, but we're coming right back at you 24 hours later because, we got a football team all of a sudden, Ryan, that everybody wants to talk about.
Yeah, the fans want as much content as possible. We're happy to provide it. And like you said, big game this weekend, 3-0 Bills, 2-1 Raiders. So why not get together again 24 hours after we just did it one night ago?
Well, we're so appreciative of your viewership and your everybody that's listened on all the audio platforms. You have made this a smashing success of a podcast, and we are now officially sponsored by Tops Friendly Markets, your neighborhood store with more. Make sure you check them out on all their social channels. We're really excited about the partnership, and a lot of fun stuff in store over the next few months of this football season. All right, Raiders versus Bills. We're going to welcome in a guest in a moment here. But this could be a fun one. This could be another offensive showdown, Ryan, with the Bills coming in this game as the third ranked scoring offense in the NFL, the Raiders, the eighth. Obviously, they struggled a little bit last week against the Patriots, and we're going to talk to our guest a little bit about that in that game last week. But really, Derek Carr on one side, Josh Allen on the other side, this could be a fun game from an offensive perspective.
Yeah, the Raiders had 34 points in their first two games of the season, then 20 last week, like you mentioned. Struggled a little bit there against the Patriots, which a lot of good teams do because that defense is still very good despite losing a lot of talent. So a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Obviously, the Raiders kind of enter this one a little bit banged up, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes, but they do have a premier tight end in Darren Waller. They have a great young running back. So there's some interesting matchups to watch for sure.
All right, so let's get my guy in here. I'm sure he has all of the Josh Allen takes for us tonight. Mr. Adam Hill of the Las Vegas Review-Journal. What's up, buddy? How are you?
What's up, man? I like that you said you're appreciative of all your guests or of all your viewers, and then you're like, oh, now we're going to make you hate us by bringing Adam on. Perfect. You're going to torture your viewers by bringing me on. That's all right, though.
No, but see, you're coming in a much different role this week. This is not, jaded former Bills fan Adam Hill. This is Las Vegas Raiders reporter Adam Hill. You're our feet on the ground. So you're going to bring that insight into the show tonight.
I can try. I was trying to decide which of my, many Bills jerseys to wear for this broadcast. I was definitely going to go Stevie Johnson, one of my favorite all-time players. But I felt like, hey, listen, I'm here as an objective beat writer from the other team to let you guys know what's going on in Vegas. So I will not do that. But I have a very extensive history of being an obsessed Buffalo Bills fan. In fact, I am sad to say, actually, I'm not. I'm proud to say Matt Parrino got to see me cry laying on the floor at the Westgate Superbook when the Bills made the playoffs a couple of years back with the Andy Dalton play. So yeah, you've witnessed some moments of my fandom with the Bills.
Yeah, we bonded that day in that sports book. So one thing that you should know, Adam and I, got to know each other on the UFC beat. I was working for the UFC. He obviously covered the fight game for many, many years. And actually, it's perfect that you're on tonight because everybody thinks this little doll here is CM Punk. This is not CM Punk.
Stop it.
This is the Ultimate Fighter himself, Forrest Griffin. So have some respect, folks. That's just terrible. All right, before we get
by the way, it's like 20 years ago, Matt. So I don't really think you can complain that people don't know about that. Nobody was even watching the sport then.
Listen, if I had a Jerry Rice up here, do you think people would just be like, that's Zay Jones? Is that Zay Jones? Like, come on. Like, let's get real. Let's have some respect for the legends here. All right. Anyway, moving on.
Speaking of legends, how excited are people for the Zay Jones and Nate Peterman reunion this weekend?
That was going to be one of my first questions. Yeah. We might as well grab it right off the bat here. I'm interested. Peterman is one Derek Carr injury away from playing, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And by the way, Richie Incognito too. I mean, how soon we forget a full complement of former Bills out here in the desert. But yeah, there is the possibility if Derek Carr goes down at some point, it will be Nate Peterman on the field, which I'm sure Bills fans will be very, very disappointed to have to go against Nate Peterman. I'm sure nobody will be jumping up and down for joy if Nate Peterman came on the field.
What's going on with Zay Jones? Because obviously he could be prominently featured this week. Obviously, he had the Monday Night Football touchdown. What are the thoughts about him? Within the organization, John Gruden. How has he settled into whatever role he has there since coming over in the trade?
Yeah, they love him, and he will have a much more prominent role this weekend with no Henry Ruggs, no Bryan Edwards. Bryan Edwards out. Henry Ruggs very doubtful. He's not playing this week. So Zay Jones, Nelson Aguilar will be pressed into much more expanded roles for the team this week. And I think you will see a lot of it. Now, they love him. I know Derek Carr really loves Zay Jones. Zay Jones was one of the players that kind of came out here to Las Vegas. Derek Carr said he stayed with him for a while at the house. They were doing the pickup games, the workouts at a local park. Actually, it was like right around the corner from my house. So I walked down there a few times and got to watch as about 20 to 30 players would get together. And that pass on Monday Night Football that you're referring to is one that Derek and Zay worked on time and time again at the park in the summer. And they missed on it week one. They connected on it week two for a touchdown. He didn't have a whole lot of snaps, but he took advantage of them. And they really are impressed with the growth that Zay Jones has shown as a football player. And as I said, this week they're going to find out how he can handle an expanded role because he's going to be out there a lot.
Yeah, so you already said that, top two wide receivers are likely out. You have some injuries on that offensive line, too. You mentioned Richie Incognito. Looking at the injury report, who are you not expecting to see out there on Sunday?
Well, Trent Brown has played 3 plays this year, and that includes training camp. Like he came in out of shape. The big right tackle who's on a massive deal with the Raiders last year came into camp out of shape
last year, right?
Well, that could be debated. Okay. I mean, the offensive line played really well, but he missed a lot of time, and they actually numbers can be misleading. Numbers can say whatever you want them to say. I get that, but their offense was much more efficient. They scored much more points per possession when he was not on the field than when he was. But again, he is a when he wants to be, when he's playing at his best, when he's giving effort, he's I think one of the better right tackles you'll find, but that just doesn't happen enough. Comes into camp out of shape. Took a couple weeks for him to even get on the field. Barely got on the field at all during training camp, and then plays 3 plays in that opener, and then he's done. And there's some growing frustration in the building that he's not doing everything he can to get back on the field. They didn't put him on IR. They thought he'd be back sooner than 3 weeks. This will be the 3rd game he's missing. There's definitely some frustration there, but he was out. But the crazy part about him getting hurt in that first game, 3 plays into the game, he goes down. So they go to Sam Young, his backup. 10 plays later, he goes down. So now they go Denzel Good, who has played nothing but guard for the Raiders the last couple of years. They move him over to tackle. He actually plays fairly well. Now, the issue is you plug John Simpson, one of their draft picks, their 4th-round pick out of Clemson, in at guard. He hasn't been good. I mean, you can use whatever negative phrase you want to about how he's played. It's been bad. And so that's kind of where it fills in. When you start finding guys, and I think one of the old terminologies, the old phrases you hear around Vegas a lot is injuries are very overrated in the NFL. They just are. Like, there's enough guys to have a second string that's really, really good. But when you have a problem is when you have cluster injuries. So when you have several injuries and you're trying to fill in at different spots, that's when it's really a problem. And the Raiders are dealing with cluster injuries on the offensive line, no question about it. And like I said, you fill in well. Denzel Good slides over to tackle, no problem. But now you got John Simpson, a rookie in there who's just not ready, especially as a pass blocker. As a run blocker, he's okay. As a pass blocker, he's nowhere close to ready to playing at this level. So with Incognito on IR, that's what I meant by the reunion there of Incognito is here. He's just not going to play. It's tough, and they're trying to fill in the best they can, but it's been an adventure, and I think you saw that show up a little bit last week.
Yeah, and this, it's an interesting storyline going in the game because this is a defense that uncharacteristically gave up 29 points in less than 2 quarters last week. That seems to be, from the outside looking in, probably reeling a little bit. There's still confidence in the building. I think that they're kind of, Tre'Davious White has said that it's September. There was no preseason. Guys are just kind of getting used to playing. But I think for a defensive line that, while the sack numbers haven't been, outstanding, I think they're still top 10 in the league. They are pressuring the quarterback. So I think if you go up against, an offensive line with all these kind of moving parts here with guys that are going out, guys that are going in, this could be a big day for this Bills defensive line now.
Sure. I think it definitely could be. The issue is, you've got to get there quick because Derek Carr's not holding the ball. For better or worse. I mean, I think there's positives and negatives to that. But he's just getting rid of it. And so no real deep shots, especially when Ruggs has not been on the field. They just haven't even looked deep. It's 3 steps and out, 5 steps and out. There's really no time to get to him. Now the Patriots did eventually a little bit when the Raiders fell behind and they had to start looking downfield a little bit more. But for the most part, sorry if that's mine. I don't think it is. For the most part, he just gets rid of the ball. So there's not a whole lot of time to get to him.
Is that
somebody getting hit? Somebody getting hit by a train?
It's a train. It's near my house. I live near a train, and I have this snowball mic that Matt Parrino got me, and it picks up everything, including that train. So yeah, sounds like a third down for the Bills, right?
Yeah, that was pretty loud, impressive.
Yeah,
interesting. So I think that to your point, that's one of the things that I thought Jared Goff did a good job of last week. He was very deliberate in getting rid of the ball. It's why he's been so successful, I think, early on this week. So that'd be something to watch. But tell me a little bit about Edwards and
Ruggs.
Ruggs.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of excitement around them, right, in training camp, and now already 3 weeks into the season, and you're down to Renfro and Zay Jones.
Renfro, Zay Jones, Nelson Aguilar.
Yes, Nelson Aguilar. I can't forget him.
And don't forget the star of Hard Knocks last year, Keelan Doss, who is a practice squad guy, but could very well have a role with Ruggs and Edwards out. So Henry Ruggs is just speed. And I say just speed. He's got more, obviously, but they love his speed. He was one of the fastest guys in the combine. I think he did run the fastest 40 at the combine. He could just blaze down the field. And that's something that this offense was desperately missing. They needed a deep threat. They wanted to go get Henry Ruggs to get out. I thought it was a mistake. I actually did a lot of drafts scouting for us, did a lot of mock drafts and things like that. I thought Justin Jefferson was better than Henry Ruggs, and I had Henry Ruggs as the 4th receiver off the board, and the Raiders took him as the 1st receiver off the board in the draft. And they'll tell you, we loved his speed. We fell in love with his speed, and that's old school Raiders. That is, find the fastest guy and draft him. And that's, kind of a nod to Al Davis and what he liked to do. Now, Henry Ruggs is more than speed. He's a guy he's a playmaker with the ball in his hand. They wanted to use him a lot on a lot of end arounds, a lot of, fly sweeps, and just everything they could do to get the ball in his hand, because they say, hey, he can stretch the field vertically, but he can also stretch the field horizontally. There's so much he can do. And he was doing that in the first half of that Panthers game. He gets hurt on a kind of a rough tackle. The defender falls on the back of his leg. He stays in the game, but it's just not effective. And then he tried to play against the Saints on Monday night, was not effective at all. He did draw pass interference, but he was mostly a decoy in that game. He just has not been there. So that is a dynamic, explosive part of the offense that is certainly missing. Edwards is the guy I'm, for the long-term prospects, kind of more excited about, surprisingly enough. He's a guy that I think could have been a late first round, early second round pick, if not for the fact that there was like 12 first round draft picks that were worthy among the receivers. And the fact that he got injured at the end of last year at South Carolina and really wasn't able to go through the pre-draft process. I think the Raiders got a steal in Bryan Edwards. But again, now he's hurt. Now he's not going to be out there. And so his development is slowed a little bit. So you go to the veterans here in the wide receiver core. But yeah, I think long term those guys are going to be effective weapons. It's just you got to be on the field.
Real quick before we go on to the next topic. He was injured on that one play where he was kind of tackled awkwardly, right? Like that was the play that he got hurt on, or
Edwards or Ruggs?
Edwards last week.
I mean,
like
the answer to both is yes. But yeah,
okay.
If you saw it, it looked like a horse collar. It wasn't, but it was a play that looked like a horse collar tackle. Is how I would describe it. I'm not saying it should have been flagged. I'm just saying that's a guy coming from behind, grabbed the back of his jersey, pulled him down, but he didn't get inside the collar or anything.
That always amazes me that, a guy like Edwards who, all anybody talked about during the draft process was his penchant for injuries and his inability to stay healthy. And like, I get it. You want to fight for every yard, but man, just go down, learn how to get tackled because he got bent like an accordion. I mean, that was a pretty gross play.
Yeah. And I think especially, with the fact that they had already been dealing with Ruggs not being on the field, everybody just kind of was deflated just watching Edwards go down. It's like, God, you got two standout rookie receivers that are starting, and now they're both injured.
Yeah, real quick, I love Bryan Edwards. I had him mocked to the Bills a few times in mock draft, so I do think the Raiders have a good one there long term. But transitioning over to John Gruden. John Gruden had high praise for Josh Allen this week, comparing him to John Elway of all quarterbacks. Do the Raiders have the type of defense? Are they equipped to slow down or to stop Josh Allen on Sunday?
No. I mean, as Matt will tell you, I would say Josh Allen will stop himself at some point. That's what's going to happen. But no, Josh Allen should have a massive day. If you're a fantasy player, plug him in. Like the Raiders have zero pass rush, and they can't cover. It's kind of a tough combination to play defense in the NFL if you've got those two things. So I don't think they're going to be able to get to him. Although it can be argued, Josh Allen is maybe better when you get to him and he has to run and do something. You can't really. And can't just stand in the pocket and look around. But yeah, I don't think they're going to get to him. I think he can stand in the pocket as much as he wants. And if he wants to run, he'll probably be able to run. They've had trouble with mobile quarterbacks, although they did a pretty good job containing Cam Newton last week. But the run game just destroyed them. So that might be a strategy of kind of play the same way you played Cam and just make the run game beat you. Make the Bills have the run game beat them. I don't know what they're going to try to do. But yeah, it's not a great matchup because the Raiders cannot get to the quarterback at all.
So let me ask you a question. Because I'm not in Vegas, we don't spend a lot of time around each other anymore. Like, is this like a in public brand thing where you're kind of anti-Bills, but like you go back on Game Pass on Sunday night and you watch the Bills in your Bills jersey and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I still want them to win and all that kind of stuff? Or how does that play out?
Part of that is true. Every week I watch the all 22 for the Raiders 3 times and the Bills twice. So I do the Raiders one for work, and I'm still obsessed with the Bills, even though now it's out of hatred, not love. It's the exact opposite. But yeah, I mean, I still very, very closely follow them. Right. I just said I would never cheer for them again.
Got you. Go back and listen
to... all my family is still there too. So, I have that and have that connection. Oh, look at Sam Darnold, the long touchdown run to start off the Jets game.
Hey, listen, him and Josh Allen train together every off season, so he's got to be taking something from those experiences. Anyway,
Sam Darnold's still better than Josh Allen, by the way.
Oh gosh,
switch them. What happens? Switch their teams. What happens?
Of course, but I don't think that you can argue it that way because
you can.
No, you can't because it's about, coming into the league. Like, of course, like if Sam Darnold was in a better situation, of course, I think he'd be much better. I think that, he has the potential to be good still. But I think that that's kind of like a slippery slope. I think that Josh Allen at this point, these first 3 weeks is a direct result of everybody in that organization and what they've done to put him there. And sure. I think that everything that's happened to Baker Mayfield is the same thing. Like, I wasn't super high on him coming out. I didn't think he deserved to be the first overall draft pick, but I do think that he's a lot better than, the situations and circumstances has put him in.
Oh, Matt, circumstances is it's everything. There are many like potential great players, especially quarterbacks, potentially great players, even borderline like superstar players that just ended up in the wrong situation and they never got a chance to succeed. Like that has happened. Like, I absolutely think that. And I'm not even going to, I'm not saying anybody in particular. I just think we see it all the time of if you don't have the right circumstance, if you don't go to the right place and they don't know how to deal with you, they don't know how to put you in the right positions, you'll never hear of them. Like I absolutely believe that's true. Like, what is Tom Brady? Tom Brady, if he gets drafted by the Jaguars, I doubt it. Like, I don't think so. He was in a perfect circumstance for him. And I'm not saying Belichick made him. I'm not even going down that argument. I'm just saying you end up in a perfect circumstance for you, and that's how you succeed. He could have gone to Jacksonville as a second, third stringer like he did in New England, and they never appreciated him. Nobody gets hurt in front of him. He's a backup for like 5 years. Like, those things can happen. But, so yeah, I think what the Bills have done tremendously is just say, okay, we're building around this guy, and we're all in on him, and we'll make it succeed. And Brian Daboll is a freaking genius. Like I said, I watch the only all 22s I really watch is Bills and Raiders, and I'm just like, I'm watching it every week, like, my goodness, like this offense is incredible.
Right.
And I think that's a lot. I think that was a lot of him figuring out how to put Josh Allen in the best situations possible for him.
And it's about getting good players. Like, look at Sam Darnold in New York.
Sure.
He's surrounded by a bunch of just, not very good players. Stephon Diggs is literally, I think he's in the conversation maybe with 3 or 4 guys as one of the best receivers in the league because of what he's able to do every week, consistently every week. You look what, DeAndre Hopkins, obviously Michael Thomas, and there's so many elite receivers, and look what they do for their quarterbacks. I think that, some of the greatest you look at Peyton Manning, look who he had to work with his entire career. He had Marvin Harrison, who, is he a Hall of Famer? I'm blanking here, but should be. I mean, when you get good players around quarterbacks, they tend to do better. And so unless you're in Cleveland and you get Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry and it still doesn't work, but that I think has more to do with, the coaching staff and the decision-making in the front office. And I think to a degree, the Bills, I don't want to say they lucked into it, but they did kind of, get very, very, again, I don't want to say lucky, but to land Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott and have it be this kind of vision, this cohesive vision. I mean, it's a match made in heaven. And ever since that happened, everything that they've done has turned to gold.
Those dudes are incredible. Like, watching, from afar, I mean, it's just amazing what they've done there. And by the way, like, the power of the NFL is so crazy. I'm just seeing that both Patrick Mahomes and LeBron James just tweeted about that Sam Darnold touchdown run.
Wow.
It's crazy. You just put a game on Thursday night and everybody's going to be watching it. The poor Cardinals and Padres are trying to play a playoff game right now. Nobody cares. Where
are you on Lamar Jackson?
I mean, incredibly high. I think the guy is unbelievable. I think he's still learning when they are in obvious passing situations. It's a different world. But I do enjoy when people point out, like, well, when they fall behind, he really struggles. He rarely falls. He's fallen behind like 4 times in his career. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he is struggling to learn that aspect of things, but I'll take never falling behind. That's pretty nice.
We were talking about this yesterday. Like, I think that he is in a very interesting position going into the playoffs this year, based on his first 2 playoff performances. Sure. Because listen, he's different than Allen in the fact that he's always going to have that MVP season to hang his hat on. And I think that'll carry you a long way. But I think he's got to be better in the playoffs. I think that, listen, the good defenses that he'll face have a plan for him, and they frustrate him, and they don't have a lot of, that's another guy. And I think this makes what Lamar's done even more impressive. They don't have a real lot of talent at the receiver positions. And if those tight ends don't have it going, he's kind of out there kind of doing a solo job.
Yeah. And I thought watching some of that back after the fact, like, obviously when you're watching it live, just like everybody else, you're just kind of hanging out, talking, goofing around, whatever. When you watch it back, I actually thought Andrews had a really bad game from a standpoint of he wasn't getting open. I thought there was opportunities to get open. And listen, quarterbacks can't do anything if their guys don't get open. I mean, no quarterback is you can't just throw it to a guy that has somebody draped all over him. And I thought Andrews at times was really struggling. And then a couple times that he did pop open, he missed them. And that's just a fact. And so, yeah, I think that was a tough spot for them. And you're right, when you have better teams and they're more schemed up for you, it becomes a lot more difficult. But I've liked some of the progression that you've seen from his passing game, and of course his running game is it's another level. The guy is unbelievable. And here's the thing about him is everybody keeps saying he's going to get hurt. He doesn't really take hits. He doesn't. It's crazy.
Speaking of running game, as you just mentioned, transitioning
Perfect.
back to the Raiders game. Yeah, right.
Professional.
Josh Jacobs is a player that'll be playing on Sunday for the Raiders. A really good back, had a really nice rookie season, but he's only averaging 3.7 yards per carry right now. Even though the Bills have struggled to stop the run lately, what's the story right now with Jacobs in terms of why he's not getting more on the ground? You did mention, the offensive line and how they've had to put someone in, Simpson, who's kind of struggling there. So is that the whole deal, or what's going on there with Josh Jacobs?
I think that's the biggest element of it. There's also, there's certain guys that you watch and like 6 or 7 times a game they're injured and have come off the field and they miss 2 or 3 plays and they come back in. Like that's him. He is he doesn't avoid contact. He looks for contact. He wants to seek it out. He wants to run you over. That's just the kind of back that he is, and that's going to take a toll. And I think his body just gets worn down very quickly. He's so good at eluding tackles. Last year, I believe he one of the sites that kind of tracks these things had him as the leading tackle breaker in the NFL. I think another one had him second, but he's among the best at breaking tackles in the league, running through contact, yards after contact, all those other things. But he's so physical, and it just takes such a toll. So he's been banged up a little bit, has come off the field several times, and then tried to come back in and gut it out. And here's the other thing, like that. Their offense right now, you mentioned the 34 points. It's been very weird. So after 2 games, they had 34 points in both games, exactly 34. And everybody was all excited. And my thought was, this is not sustainable. This is not 1985. You can't run for 3 yards, and then pass for 4 or 5. Like, you just can't do that. That's not how football is played anymore. And it was working for 2 games. But then last week, penalties, turnovers, like that's why you can't play that way, because at some point you're going to beat yourself. Now, the first 2 games, they only had 3 penalties. They had no turnovers. They had one that was on a pitch that should have been caught by the running back and he dropped it. That was Jalen Richard. But 1 turnover in 2 games and then 6 total penalties. So they weren't beating themselves at all. And they were able to just go 3, 3, 4, 3, 3, 5. Like that was just how they were moving the ball, but it was working. And last week it kind of caught up with them, the penalties, the turnovers, and it wasn't working anymore. But that's what Josh Jacobs does. Like, hey, he'll get hit 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage and pick up 3. And that's the kind of runner that he is. And I think he's special, especially this year with him developing a little bit more in the receiving game. That was his goal. He really wasn't involved at all. He was coming off the field a lot last year. That wasn't the case the first 2 weeks. Now, last week, I think he only played about 57% of the snaps because they were behind and they wanted to get even a more effective pass catcher in there, and Jalen Richard and a little bit of Devontae Booker as well. But Josh Jacobs wants to be on the field all the time. He's working on his receiving game to get there, but he's just a guy that, he's going to get you a little bit more than you should on every single play, but sometimes that's only 3 yards out of a 1 yard gain.
Well, I'm glad we had you on because you're the perfect guy with all the tape you're watching on these 2 teams to give us the prediction. How's this thing gonna play out on Sunday?
It could get real. By the way, this is not a Raiders hat. I just want to make sure people know we're not actually. Somebody was like, "Are you wearing a Raiders hat on this?" Like, no, it's a UNLV hat. It's just the baseball team. So I think it's gonna get ugly for the Raiders. Honestly, I think it's gonna be really bad. This is a team that got a big bump, I think, out of playing their first game at Allegiant Stadium on Monday Night Football against the Saints. Even though there was no fans there, I think it was one of those big moments. And by the way, we judge teams in Vegas by if they cover, not if they win or lose the game. And now it's 6 straight teams that have opened a new stadium have covered. It was 4 in a row that had won outright. And then the Chargers covered but didn't win against the Chiefs in opening SoFi for themselves. And then the Raiders covered, obviously, at Allegiant. So I think they got a big bump from that. Obviously, you don't get that again in the second game. That's only a one-time thing, I think. So the matchup just isn't great. They can't get to the quarterback. Now they've got Damon Arnett, their rookie first-round pick at corner, who looks like he's going to miss 6 months. I actually was just watching, as we came on here, his Instagram story. It looks like he posted a surgery photo from the recovery room at the hospital.
Oh, no.
So it looks like he had the thumb surgery in the last couple hours. So he's going to be down like 6 weeks, probably at least. So that's going to deplete their secondary even more. If you can't get to the quarterback and you can't cover, not a really good recipe for success in the NFL. And offensively, they're just, I don't see them being able to exploit the deficiencies we've seen in the Bills, especially with the linebackers getting healthy, and the fact that the offensive line is so banged up for the Raiders. So I would absolutely say the Bills should come in and win fairly easily.
Trayvon Mullen, what do you think
fantastic.
He's been great. So I mean, his job's going to be Stephon Diggs. And so is that a marquee matchup? Do you think he holds his own in that matchup? Because we saw another young cornerback in Miami, Igbenogany, that really struggled. Obviously, that's a rookie, much different situation. Last week,
Mullen's only second year.
Yeah, exactly. Ramsey did a much better job over the course of the game, but even still, Diggs finds a way to make a play, score a touchdown, and then, oh, by the way, Cole Beasley and Gabriel Davis were able to eat a little bit.
Yeah, well, I would think if they do go Mullen on Diggs exclusively, which I don't necessarily know that they will, especially if Diggs moves around, because Mullen doesn't really tend to travel. So I would say he'll just be on the right side and just covering whoever's over there. So yeah, I think you're going to see the Bills find ways to really exploit that defense with Arnett out. You'll see a lot more Nevin Lawson, who's the most experienced of the corners, but he's not necessarily great. I think I need to look up the stat. I could be off on this, but since we're doing this live, I'll just throw it out there. I believe he has the most snaps of any corner to never have an interception in the NFL.
That's a nice little piece of trivia.
Not necessarily. It's not necessarily your job to get an interception. It's just to not let the receiver catch it. But at some point, you would expect maybe one.
Bounce here or there.
So yeah, it's going to be a struggle, I think, in coverage for the Raiders. And I don't know how many people were watching the Patriots game last week, but Jonathan Abram is a guy that they are so excited about with the Raiders. Like, they think he's going to be a star safety at some point. But man, did the Patriots figure out a way to exploit him last week by isolating him, allowing him to run up to the line of scrimmage free and just over pursue everything. And it was get guys isolated on him, one cut back and go, and he was fanning on a lot of different plays. So it wasn't good. Oh, and here's one more thing. 19% of tackle attempts the Raiders have missed this year. That's an NFL high. So not a lot of things going well defensively.
Well, it's going to be fun. I'm so bummed that I'm not out there, so we can go hit Naked City Pizza, the Buffalo chicken wing joint out there. It would have been a great time. I saw Chris putting together a little contest here for the weekend, so it's exciting. And there's actually going to be a lot of Bills fans still there. So if you're going to Vegas or if you're living out in Vegas, enjoy the party, because I think there's going to be a big one this weekend.
Dude, I went to the last time the Bills played the Saints on the road. I went down to New Orleans for that. And my goodness, Bourbon Street was just out of control. I only saw Bills fans there, and I feel like it'll be the same in Vegas if there's anytime soon that the Bills get to return here. I know it probably won't be for a while, but it does suck that there's as much as I have a love-hate relationship with the Buffalo fan base, it does suck that they're not here. And to see a bunch of you guys, obviously it would be cool to see you out here and go get dinner and talk trash about Josh Allen, and then some of the other folks in the media too, and my family would have been out here to come hang out and watch the game. So it's kind of
it's so funny. People think that I'm like this Josh Allen stan. I'm really not. I just think that no, it's really not. And I get kind of frustrated with, and not so much you, but like some of the analytic guys that you just like you're a Josh Allen fan. No, I'm really not,
because they're right.
What I like about what he does is that he gives you so many different options as a player. You look around the league, there's so many guys that are limited. He doesn't have any limitations on his game. You're right. Sometimes he does go into, I think you said it on the radio yesterday, this brain dead mode, or he's not really thinking out there, but it's sports. It's a game. Sometimes that's okay. And we'll see how it plays out. I think that they're going to win a lot of games with him.
He also has a lot of trouble understanding situations, I think. He sometimes with a 17-point lead plays like you're down 24 in the fourth quarter. What is that? So I think and maybe you can grow into that. I don't know. I covered him in college. So this is a long-standing observation of him, and it's kind of been the same for a long time. I don't know that it ever changes. Maybe it does. Maybe this is a sign that things are changing, but I do think people are getting a little bit carried away with what it is. And the last thing, and you said this, hey, are you willing to admit you're wrong about Josh Allen the last 2 years? No, nothing. He could be an MVP the next 12 years. Doesn't change the fact that he was garbage the last 2. Like that doesn't change anything going forward. He could be a Hall of Famer, win every Super Bowl, still bad those first 2 years.
And see, that's the thing. You're jumping off the bridge with that take because he wasn't garbage last year. He had the 6th most touchdowns in the NFL. Was he great? Was he in the MVP conversation? Of course not. But I would have taken him last year, Josh, over a big chunk of this league's quarterbacks.
Garbage was a bad word. I should have said
All right,
that. But he was not a top half of the league quarterback.
Listen, we jousted on this back a few months ago. Go listen to that episode if you want more Adam Hill. We got to let you go because we're going over. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. Have fun this weekend.
Anytime, guys. Good talking to you.
All right. Take care, man. All right. So we're moving right along. Before we continue, a little word from our sponsor.
Ready for football? With every game a home game, Tops is ready for you with its TV a Day giveaway. For 6 weeks, every day you shop is a new chance to win a massive 70-inch 4K TV. Shop Tops for the best deals in town, in-store or online to win.
All right, we are going to shoot through this last segment. We will give you our prediction before we get out of here. Late game, 4:00 start on Sunday, Ryan, a little bit different. We're so used to those 1:00 starts here in Buffalo over the years, but hey, there's been a lot of late night football this year, a lot of prime time action. But in terms of storylines, and we kind of hit on a couple of those things, but we talked over a little bit before the show, and one of the big ones is this defense just righting the ship, if you will. And I really will say, like, we talked to Micah Hyde today, and these guys there's a lot of veterans on this defense at every level. You look at Matt Milano, who's in his 4th year. You look at Jerry Hughes, who's a super veteran, and Mario Addison, and then Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, and even Tre'Davious White, who's in his 4th year. I mean, these guys have been through a lot of adversity in this league. And Micah basically said, listen, if I knew it was going wrong, I think we would have rectified it already. They're kind of working through that right now. But what he did say is the focus is on fundamentals, on technique. And I know those are cliches, but if you keep banging that drum, tackling, getting to the ball, reacting quicker. I think that these guys, just got to get their reaction time up a little bit, and we could start to see things change. But I think this is a big game to get things right for this defense.
And I think this is a great opportunity for this defense to get things right. As we talked about on the show here, their top 2 wide receivers are out. You're talking about Zay Jones, Nelson Aguilar, not exactly an all-star cast at wide receiver coming into this game that the Bills have to face off against. Good chance you might be seeing Josh Norman back with the news that Cam Lewis was waived or released, and you have Norman practicing, so another veteran you can get into the mix there in the secondary. The big thing is going to be the run defense, and Josh Jacobs, the yards per carry are down, but he's going to get a big workload. And the Bills couldn't stop Darrell Henderson last week. Henderson was running wild on them for whatever reason. Sean McDermott kind of alluded when someone was asking him did it have to do with getting out of their gaps, and he kind of said, yeah, that's kind of what it was at the end of the day. And we've heard gap integrity over the course of his time in Buffalo over the years. That's what it's going to come down to. And who knows what's going on, with Ed Oliver if he plays. Maybe they bring up Justin Zimmer again from the practice squad. I thought Zimmer had a really nice game against the run with that Jets in game week 1. So I just feel like this is a great opportunity for this defense to get right, both against the run and in terms of defending the pass. It's just going to be interesting to see how they what they do to kind of rattle Derek Carr and what they do to try to maybe create some turnovers to get them off the field quickly.
Well, you hope Vernon Butler gets a little bit healthier. Obviously, he's been working his way back from that hamstring in camp and hasn't looked. I mean, his snap count, his first game back wasn't anywhere where I thought it was going to be. I mean, I thought he'd figure into being that starting one tech. And you could also see how much they miss Star Lotulelei. Listen, I think a lot of fans sometimes forget, like, for all the faith that you place in Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, with all these decisions that they made, whether it be the guys that they've drafted or they signed, a lot of people look to that star contract and, they hem and haw about it. But listen, they paid a premium for what Starr does. He is a space eater. He eats up blocks. He takes double teams so other guys can kind of eat a little bit. And without that now, you're asking Quentin Jefferson, who I think is playing out of position. I think he's a 3 technique, a guy that can rush on the edge as well. So you're asking him to kind of now start to take on that role. And I don't think he's necessarily built for that. So if you give Vernon Butler healthy and maybe move him into that role a little bit more regularly, I think that could be interesting. And I also think, listen, Harrison Phillips, we knew that this was going to be a little bit of a process to get him back to 100%. Leslie Frazier spoke about it a few days ago. But the good news for the Bills defense and for fans, I think Tremaine Edmunds taking off the red non-contact today, being a full participant in practice, that's huge because, yeah, you need your defensive line to, the gap integrity to be there for them to make plays near the ball, but you also need a healthy Tremaine Edmunds to fly around and make tackles. He wasn't very good last week, and he said it, Sean said it, Leslie said it, he had to kind of grit through that performance, and you hope that he is closer to 100% this week. That can mean, him producing more against the run. And then obviously Matt Milano, you're going to rely on him quite a bit to go up against Darren Waller.
Yeah, Edmonds, you're right. He wasn't 100% last week. It led to some misplays on the field, but I think that's to be expected when you're talking about a shoulder injury. So you hit it on the head with the red contact jersey coming off. That means he's probably starting to feel a little bit more like himself, probably going to see some more opportunities for him to make some plays here. So that's pretty promising. Waller, that's my big matchup. And, going back to that Patriots game, the Patriots were so smart. And it's something Belichick always does. He had linebackers on Waller. The Bills have linebackers that can cover him, specifically, as you mentioned, Milano. He had cornerbacks, safeties. The Bills are loaded in those two areas as well. So there's some opportunities there for the Bills to really frustrate Waller, take away Carr's best weapon in the passing game, especially with those wide receivers out, and then make life really tough. The other thing that they did was on those third down plays where Carr likes to get it out quick, go short, they were kind of double teaming or kind of, I don't know, it just felt like they had a lot of coverage on those guys underneath, those guys running the short routes, and Carr didn't really know what to do. So it'll be interesting to see what the Bills do, what they take from the Patriots game plan. Obviously, the Bills are their own team. They're going to do their own things based on their own strengths. But there was some things in that game last week between the Patriots and the Raiders that I think the Bills could do and do very well to frustrate the Raiders on Sunday.
Yeah, offensively, they looked, like Adam said, they looked like they were committed to trying to run the ball. It never really worked. They were in position. I thought, one takeaway I had from that first half is I think that this New England offense is going to struggle to move the ball through the air, push the ball down the field. They don't have any weapons down there. N'Keal Harry, I mean, he's so big, and I don't think that there's that ability to separate at the second and third level. I think that they could really struggle. And as a Bills fan, you're probably sitting there, excited to hear that because that's your main competition, the AFC East. But I think, this is a situation where I think that if the Bills can go on the road with their offense that is not only scoring at a high rate, but the number 2 passing offense in the league, you attack through the air. You attack, Brian Dable, a guy that's being celebrated around the league. You dial some things up and you try to, go after Abrams and you try to really test Mullins. And if they're not going to travel to cover Diggs, whoever lines up on Diggs could have themselves a long day. So I think to your point, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, utilize the play action. The Raiders have really struggled against the run, especially last week against New England, giving up 250 yards on the ground. Obviously, get Singletary going. If Moss is back, get him going a little bit. But use that play action to your advantage. Get those matchups. Get the defense to kind of bite on those plays. And like you said, stretch the field. They've been hitting on the big plays, whether you're talking intermediate or deep, and I think they're going to be there again on Sunday.
Yeah, my big matchup to watch in this game is Devin Singletary against that second level, that linebacker unit for the Raiders. They have one linebacker. I'm probably going to mispronounce his name, Nick Kwiatkowski. He has appeared on the injury report. I think that there is some hope that he does play. We'll see if that's the case. But Corey Littleton, who the Raiders signed in free agency, has been a pretty big disappointment. And so I think that one of the key storylines to go along with this matchup to watch, and I'll talk about Singletary in a second, is this offensive line and really establishing the run in this game. And I think that they can attack with the pass, and I wouldn't be surprised if Allen throws it 40 times in this game just because of what I think they can do against the secondary. But I think you do want to get Devin Singletary going in this game. Get him a little bit more touches. I thought last week I kind of was almost hungry to see him get the ball a little bit more. What he did with 13 carries was the Devin Singletary that we saw a year ago. So if you add Zach Moss, sprinkle him back in a little bit, I think this running game can do very well against this Raiders defense.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, based on what we saw from the Bills themselves, but like you said, also based on what we've seen from the Raiders over these last few weeks. Singletary, though, over 120 some yards total between running and receiving. So the talent's there. Our guest Adam tonight mentioned that the Raiders are among the worst teams in the league in terms of missed tackles. That's something that Singletary does really well in terms of his elusiveness, that one step, that cut. So I think that he can kind of eat in that regard too on Sunday, where you get him the ball, whether it's in the backfield or whether it's in the passing game, he can make some guys really miss, look foolish, and get some extra yards, whether it's through the air or on the ground. So really think a lot of opportunities for this Bills offense will be presented to them on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Offensive line, we're tracking tomorrow out at practice if Deion Dawkins with that shoulder injury remains in the red non-contact jersey. He was in it today. I saw one warm-up. They were working on some install down on the opposite end, and it looked like it was the same configuration on the offensive line as last week, with Winters at right guard, Cody Ford at left guard, and Mitch Morse at center. Obviously with Darrell Williams at right tackle. So that could be the plan again this week. Obviously, John Feliciano, who's eligible to come off of IR this week, has not been out at practice. So the anticipation is at this point, he's probably not going to factor into things. And if they don't activate him by Saturday, he has to spend 3 more weeks at least on IR. So that'll be something interesting to watch. I saw a question in here about John Brown. He was practicing today. He looked pretty good. I didn't tweet it, but I did notice he did not take part in the one-on-ones. Go head over to my Twitter account right now, and some of the other reporters had some good views. I think the Bills put one out too. There were some fun one-on-one matchups, and it was contentious today, Ryan. Defensive backs coach John Butler was screaming. Like, I can't really talk about what he was saying, but he was really into it, and he was cheering on his guys, and he wanted his guys to show up, his defensive backs, and win against the receivers. Those are always really tough matchups for those guys. So I think that could be and the blue snowball is picking up the extracurricular in the background. But hey, we have top quality audio equipment here, and that's okay. That's okay. I can even hear your chair.
Oh, can you? Sorry, I'll try to sit still. That was actually the cat food. We have a little timer on the cat food that comes out at 9. So that's my thing now. So yeah, my apologies. You're right. These things do pick up everything though. It's pretty amazing.
You know what I'm going to get you next? I'm going to get you a swivel so you could swivel your computer screen and it'll go right to the cat so we could see the food going
watch
down
him race down.
Exactly.
Cat has an impressive 40 time. When he hears that, he's upstairs and he like jets down. He'll jump over the dog. It's impressive.
All right. Prediction time. This weekend, it is going to be the Buffalo Bills at the Las Vegas Raiders. Start us off, Ryan. Who you got winning, and how does it go?
I have the Bills winning 30-13.
30-13. All right. I like that. They're going on the road. I do like this matchup, but I'm a little bit hesitant to go over 30 again. Maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I should just, go over 30 with you. But I'm going to go 25-12. Buffalo Bills win. 4 field goals. I think this defense gets right. Really frustrates Derek Carr in this offense without a lot of weapons. It's a long day for Josh Jacobs as they, hope to rely upon him. And I think, maybe it doesn't lead to 30 plus points, but I think this is going to be a big day for the receiving corps for the Bills. Final thoughts.
Bills have a great opportunity to go to 4-0. A lot of talk on social media today, though, about the next game, which is against the Titans. The fact that the Titans will be coming off of a quote-unquote bye. It's not like the Titans planned this. I get why some Bills fans would be upset about the fact that now they have some extra preparations, but it sounds like they're not going to be able to go into their building here anytime soon. Don't know if we're going to even see some of these players. I know that they get retested, and that will determine whether they play in this game against the Bills, but don't look too far ahead. There's still this Raiders game on Sunday. While I think the Bills are in a really good shot or a really good place to move to 4-0, don't look ahead. Let's take this one first, or if you're a Bills fan, and then look ahead to that Titans game next week.
All right. He is Ryan Talbot. I am Matt Parrino. Definitely head over to the website tomorrow and all throughout the weekend. We'll have you covered with any news, anything that you need to know leading up to kickoff, 4:00 on Sunday in Vegas. It's going to be fun to watch. He is Ryan Talbot. I am Matt Parrino. This has been The Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review on all the audio platforms. I always got to get it in. Smash that like button if you're watching on YouTube. And we will see you on Sunday right after the game, probably right before Sunday Night Football, and we'll break it all down for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on Sunday. Take care, guys.
Ready for football? Tops is with ready-to-serve fan favorites everyone will cheer for. Delicious family or party packs like pizza, sliders, fried chicken, barbecue, or beef on weck, starting at only $4 per serving. Perfect for game day and any day. Only at Tops.